Madness, History of Marijuana Use in the United States, Steal This Dream, an oral biography of Abby Hoffman, and he also co-wrote Scar Tissue, the autobiography of the Red Hot Chili Peppers' Anthony Kiedis. But tonight, I believe, he'll be reading from his iconic personal account of Dylan's 1975 Rolling Thunder review called On the Road with Bob Dylan. In which he writes about his time as a fledgling writer when he joined the review, rubbing shoulders with Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell, Allen Ginsberg, Ramblin' Jack Elliott, and many others. And this is a book that Bob Dylan himself referred to as the War and Peace of rock and roll. So without further ado, Ratso.
Great to be here, Shirley. Can I get a Ratso special? Lubricate my vocal cords.
Ratso special.
I'm really excited to be here. I was here I was recently, Mark Jacobson and I did iconic KGB radio hour from here. But Mike didn't work one too many. No, I mean, we both got involved with other projects. We made Resurrected in a future date. You know, we're talking. My lawyer's talking to Dennis. So this Rolling Thunder tour. I'm going to read something first, a preface to the book, which kind of explains my fascination with Dylan, and then I'll do a little bit from the tour itself. Minsky was my first hero. Minsky was a Jewish hood who wore a black leather motorcycle jacket, carried a greasy black comb in his back pocket, hung around the benches in Forest Park in Queens, occasionally spitting or cursing at homos or stealing weaklings' basketballs. He was always flicking his burned-down cigarette at least 15 feet in a marvelous blazing arc, all of which in 1958 was grounds for pariahhood. But I loved Minsky. I loved his mountain slope of a pompadour and his perfect Elvis sneer and the incredible knack he had of holding a can of beer in one hand and fielding a grounder with the other, dropping his glove, picking up the ball, and throwing the runner out at first with a behind-the-back fastball. And Minsky was my hero because he was going out with Kathy Muldoon, a beautiful Irish redhead who lived in my building and who escorted me home from the park every afternoon, riding me up the elevator to my floor, then giving me a sweet, mischievous smile as I gaped at her boobs. But then we moved to Bayside, leaving Minsky and Kathy Muldoon in Forest Park light years behind. And I started going to high school, and I cultivated a new hero, Andy Bathgate of the Rangers. But it wasn't the same. Then I wandered into a music store on Bell Boulevard in June of 1965 and picked up the latest Top 100 list, and I noticed a strange name at number 43. The entry read, "Like a Rolling Stone, B. Dylan." I got furious, steaming to myself about how this Dylan character was trying to rip off the Stones' name, riding to fame on their boot heels. In anger, I bought the single. It changed my life. Oh, that sound, that rapturous organ, and the searing guitar, and that mocking piano, and that voice, that half sneer, half lullaby razor of a voice. The next day I took my father's car for the first time since I had finished driver's ed, and I drove into Flushing where Gertz had a sale on Dylan's Highway 61 LP, $1.88 in mono. And the album finished me off. Those incredible songs, Tombstone Blues, Ballad of a Thin Man, Highway 61 Revisited, Desolation Row. There I was, a nice Jewish boy, homeless in the suburbs, with an after-school job reconciling bank statements for the accountant down the hall, ready to start Queens College and pick a nice, safe, respectable career like accountant. After Highway 61, I rushed back to Flushing, and one by one, I picked up all the other albums and listened, really listened. Then I started going to the Village, to the Paul Sargent store, that was mentioned in the liner notes to Highway 61, then to McDougal Street, finally to the Players Theater, where the Fugs were setting new standards for perversity and honesty. So when I spotted a small ad for a Bob Dylan concert in February 1966 in White Plains, I immediately wrote for 2 tickets, one for me and one for my friend Feidelberg, who had a long leg cast as a result of a skiing accident. The night of the concert, I was on pins and needles, enthralled at the prospect of seeing Dylan live in the flesh. My parents drove us there, then left to take in a local movie. I walked and Feidelberg hobbled to our seats, in the rear, but at least on the floor. And after an hour's wait, Dylan strode on stage. He did a stunning solo set, the classic folk battles, some of the middle period love-hate songs, then the new intense stuff like Freeze Out, later to be released as Visage of Johanna, and Desolation Row. A quick bow and he was off. After the intermission, the lights dimmed and 5 strange-looking figures wandered out on stage and plugged into amplifiers. And then Dylan was back in an olive box checkered suit. And I heard the most incredible rock music of my life. But all too fast, it was over. Dylan taking a final half bow, then pausing to wave to someone in the audience. I stumbled into the lobby in a haze. My parents met us, and we walked to the car, Feidelberg and me climbing into the back seat. After a few minutes, my father half turned to us. "So how'd you like it?" he asked. It was incredible. I loved it," I managed to answer over the din of all those songs still ringing through my head. "It's funny," my father shouted, alternately turning to us and then checking the road. "When we came to pick you guys up, we got there early, and 2 people were leaving. So I got their stubs and I went to look for you, and I walked right up the aisle, right up to the front. That noise!" He held his head in one hand and shook it. "You what?" I shouted. "You walked by us? I didn't see you. What aisle? How far up did you go?" "Right up to the front, the first row. I looked up and saw Dylan from about 10 feet away," my father chuckled. "What? You saw him that close? What did he look like? What was he wearing? Was it suede boots? What kind of shirt was that? Did he see you? What did he look like?" I was starting to repeat myself. My father just shrugged and looked back at the road. "What are you getting so excited about?" he shouted, one hand on the wheel, the other punctuating the air. He didn't seem like anything special. The song seemed nice, loud but nice. But he didn't look so hot. "What are you making such a fuss over? He was a small, ordinary guy. He looked like a shipping clerk," the old man said with finality. With that, I slumped back down into the seat and rode the rest of the way home in silence. The next day, I ran into someone from Kew Gardens who told me that Minsky had been busted. So fast forward a few years, I was a cover reporter at Rolling Stone magazine. I had done a preview of Dylan's Blood on the Tracks because I knew Phil Oakes. Phil Oakes was living at my apartment on Prince Street because Jerry Rubin and Phil, well, the war was over, and Jerry Rubin decided he was going to move to LA and become a networker, and Phil had nowhere to go. So I told Phil he could stay on the couch. And I was walking down Fifth Avenue one day, and I saw, I was passing Elizabeth Arden salon, a very high-end salon for women. And I saw a guy sitting in a car, and he was blonde. And I said, "Hey man, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm friends with Phil Oakes. Phil's living with me." And immediately he warmed up, and I had heard that he was going to do an album. I said, "I'd love to write something about it for Rolling Stone." He says, "Fine." So we did the piece in Rolling Stone. I remember I needed to talk to him. And I was at the Rolling Stone offices one night. I left a message. And the phone rings. Everybody had gone except for me and the publisher. I picked up the phone and they said, "It's a collect call from California for Larry Sloman. Will you accept the charges?" And I said, "Yeah." And it was Bob. And we did the interview, we did the story. And then he was in New York recording this album called Desire, and he was going to start this incredible tour called the Rolling Thunder Tour. So my friend Roger McGuinn was playing at the time, and I met Roger, and one thing led to another. We met Bob, and we were all hanging out one night, and Bob had a couple of brandies, and he goes, "Hey, why don't you come out and chronicle the tour, man? That would be great." So I said, "Sure, I'll do it." So I get the assignment from Rolling Stone, I go on the road, and all of a sudden, it's a whole different scene. Because now there's a manager, now there's a promoter, and everybody's trying to keep me, the press, from Bob and Joni Mitchell, Joan Baez, and all these people. So a lot of the book chronicles the attempts of me to get close to Bob, and I'm going to read some of these attempts. So I had a kind of falling out with Rolling Stone along the way, because they were always asking me, well, this tour, it's supposed to be like little, tours at little shows every night at small college campuses. All of a sudden they're doing big shows. What's going on? Who's making money? All these insane questions, when the most incredible thing was that the most important cultural event in music was happening right before their eyes. So I had a fight with Rolling Stone. I left my rental car in Montreal, I think, and that was it. But I was determined to stay on the tour somehow and to chronicle this. So one night I'm in a hotel, and I'm beside myself. They're not letting me in the hotel. They're not letting me talk to anybody. I write a letter to Luke Kemp, who was Bob's road manager at the time, and we'll pick it up here. Just as Ratso, I got the name Ratso. That's another side. You know how you get like a little kind of scruffy on the road and stuff. So I drove up one day to pick up McGuinn to go out to lunch, and Joan Baez comes running up to the car, and she goes, "Look, it's Ratso." And I said, "Oh, I remind you of Dustin Hoffman?" And she goes, "No, Ratso Rizzo." And it stuck. So now I'm Ratso. Just as Ratso is completing the missive, Dylan strides into the lobby, accompanied by Joni Mitchell and Roger McGuinn. He's wearing the same outfit as he did on stage: the ever-present hat, dark glasses, black leather jacket, Rolling Thunder Wallace Beery shirt, and worn dungarees. "Hey, Ratso, how you doing?" he shouts and grins. "I'm fucked," Ratso screams, seizing the opportunity. "Come here, schmuck," he urges Dylan over to the desk. "What's the matter?" Dylan asks. "I'm fucked. Rolling Stone cut me off. They don't want to pay for any more expenses. They only want spot coverage because I wouldn't write that bureaucratic bullshit about how much money you were making. And I'm cool here in Boston because I got friends to stay, but once we leave Boston, I won't be able to afford a hotel room." And the three superstars just look in wonder at the reporter decomposing before their eyes. "And this whole fucking tour," Ratso rails. "I've just been getting jerked off. I'm the fucking nigger on this tour. Look, you fucking invited me on this one night at the Kettle, and since then, I'm like a fucking groupie trying to fight my way into the rooms. I was speaking to some of the security guys, and they said that you were just jerking me off, that you really wanted me on this tour. You get me a room. I don't need this, man. I can write about other things. I don't have to take this abuse and humiliation. Fuck this shit. I'm gonna go home." "Wait a minute," Dylan interrupts, as Joni looks on shocked. "You want a Librium?" McGuinn offers the tranquilizer, and Ratso scoffs it down. "Well, what is it you want?" Dylan asks. "Be specific. What do you need?" By now, Barry Imhoff, who's the promoter, has been attracted by the racket, and he hurries over to calm the reporter down. "Come on, Ratso, don't take it so hard," Imhoff soothes. "We're only joking. We like you." "Bullshit," Ratso screams. "You fucking hate me. You make it impossible for me to do my job. Every time." "Hey, what do you need, man?" "Well," Ratso calms down a little, "I got no money for a hotel. You need a bed, right? Give him a bed," he orders Imhoff. "There are no vacancies now," Imhoff remembers, "but he can sleep in the hospitality suite. There's a bed there." "I need a double bed," Ratso pouts. nodding towards Sarah, this girl that I picked up along the way. Is this your sister, Dylan? She's gonna sleep here too? All right, you got a bed. What else you need? His booted heel taps out a rhythm on the tiled floor. You need per diem, right? Ratso readily agrees. Yeah, per diem. I got no more money. I got cut off from Rolling Stone. Okay, you got it. Dylan flashes. What else? Come on, man, what else? Well, I don't need no salary, Ratso generously offers. Says I'll make money from the articles and stuff, but I need the data. I need the daily newsletter, stuff like that. Ratso searches for the word. His eyes suddenly light up. I need access! He screams at the superstar. I need access to the people on the tour. Joni looks even more incredulous at the surreal sight, but Gwen is suppressing a smile and Dylan rolls his eyes in amazement. You need X-Lax? What do you need X-Lax for? What have you been eating? Everyone breaks up. So now I've somehow wormed my way on to working with the film crew. Now they were shooting a film, snippets of which you saw in that last video, called Ronaldo and Clara. I hear that Dylan is shooting a certain scene, so they were filming at a gas station, so I ran over there. At the station, Dylan and Sarah, his wife, and Sam Shepard are in the middle of a scene under a car on racks. Ratso rushes up and pulls Jack Barron, the assistant producer, over. What's going on, he whispers. Just a subplot, Barron answers, and Ratso inches closer to the action. There's too many people in here, Myers decides, turning around and surveying the 4 or 5 onlookers. Mel Howard hurries out. These are all film crew people. But Ratso tries to blend into a pile of tires. There's too many people in here, Sloman. Outside, I don't want to see your face. Ratso and Barron stand outside the station, shivering as the heavy snow begins to fall. It's snowing hard, Barron notices. Good, maybe the snow will bring this thing to a total halt. Then we could sit down and have a Thanksgiving dinner, Ratso hopes. Barron smirks. We'll probably get an instant turkey pill. Dylan walks back over to Shepard, who's playing a garage mechanic, and Sarah, who's playing Bob's companion. Where could I get another car, Dylan asks Shepard. I'm going to Mexico. Sarah tightens the shawl around her shoulders. Shepard asks what Sarah does. She's a typist. That's her gig, Bob smiles. When are you leaving? Tonight. We're going to Tucson, Dylan starts peering at the underside of the car. That's a hell of a run, Shepard drawls. What happens around here, Dylan wonders. The weather changes, Shepard chuckles. You may wonder why Ronaldo and Clara got such terrible... Anyway. Hey, I'll buy that car off of you, Dylan offers. Just then a kid tries to enter the office from outside. Ratso blocks the door. Hey, let me in, I own the place. I think I got a right to come in. Ratso apologizes and lets the owner in. You guys are all fucked up, the kid shakes his head. Inside, the scene is petered out, and Dylan and Sarah walk out into the cold, snow-filled air, arm in arm, trailed by the ubiquitous Myers. He's ahead of them now, backing up, filming all the while, heading straight for the gas pump, when he suddenly trips on the concrete and sprawls on the ice. Ratso catches up to Bob and Sarah. Hey, Ratso, Dylan looks solemn as Myers is back on his feet. Ask Kemp to tell you what he told me. Huh? Just ask Louis to tell you what he told me, Dylan repeats enigmatically. Well, let me ask you a question, Ratso buttonholes Bob. I've always wanted to know this. When you say in Sad-Eyed Lady that my warehouse eyes my Arabian drums, is that 2 distinct separate images? Warehouse eyes and Arabian drums? Or is it using eye as a verb? You know, my warehouse eyes my Arabian drums. Dylan looks befuddled. Yeah, Sarah tugs on his arm. I've always been curious about that too. Dylan's at a loss for words. Oh man, you always catch me in my worst, Ratso. He tugs Sarah towards the motel. Okay, so now we're in another scene, and I've been assigned to drive Bob and the people in the scene to the set. 5 minutes later, Howard was the producer. Howard and Scarlett are in the back seat, and Dylan slides in next to Ratso. They follow the film van up a winding country road, finally stopping next to the bare shell of an old farmhouse. The light snow begins to intensify. The car empties and Dylan leads the way over to the old house. It's an eerie sight, just the wooden beams and floor, a ghost house in the middle of barren winter forest. Perfect for a scene between the wandering hero and the gypsy girl he meets up with after many lifetimes. Myers directs Scarlett to stand in the middle of the house, and Dylan tells her to start playing. She starts a slow, haunting melody on her violin, her hands numb and shaking from the bitter cold. While the crew is getting ready, Ratso and Dylan retreat to the car and its welcome heater. Bob wrings his hands in front of the heat and studies the old worn copy of Dante's Inferno he has in his lap. I finally figured it out, Ratso breaks the silence. I realize why Louis doesn't like me. It's because I'm a New York Jew. I'm pushy. I come from a lower middle class family. I'm hungry. But he's from the Midwest. And Midwest Jews are fucking closet cases. They're ashamed they're Jewish. They're just assimilationalists, you know? Dylan just nods and continues reading. Louis thinks I'm a chaza, that I'm heartless. But I'm not. I'm just hungrier. I have some debts to repay. You see where I'm coming from? You see it from my perspective, Ratso asks. What's that? From an out-of-work writer? Dylan cracks. Fuck you, Ratso feels hurt. Well, all your favorite songwriters aren't New York Jews, Dylan argues. Me, Leonard Cohen, Kinky, none of us are from New York. That's true, Ratso admits, and Dylan moves back to the seat. Dylan goes back to his book, then gets called out for the scene. Ratso goes out to look, but the temperature must be near zero. And after a few minutes, he rushes back to the car. 5 minutes later, Dylan, Howard, Scarlett, and Ken Regan cram in, and Ratso stares up on the way to Bangor, where everyone else must already be enjoying the big Thanksgiving dinner prior to the evening show. We must be late already, Dylan moans in the front seat, and Ratso tries to accelerate, nearly careening the car into a skid. Don't rush, Ratso, just get there safely, he worries, looking apprehensively out the window. In the back seat, Ken Regan, the photographer, is snapping away, taking roll after roll of Dylan in the front, who looks like Quinn the Eskimo in a red and green white checkered coat with a fur collar and a big Tibetan fur hat. Mel starts discussing the film. You know, Ginsberg wants to do a scene with you, Bob, acting out one of his fantasies. Which one, Ratso asks. Well, Alan's fantasy is to fuck Bob, Mel reports. No, Dylan whirls back. Not me, Bronson. Anyway, Mel continues after the laughter dies down. He wants to shoot the scene where you and he are waking up together in the morning. This real tender aftermath scene. Bob rolls his eyes and retreats into the seat. In a few minutes, he's fast asleep. So now I've basically spent the entire tour lamenting Bob and his wife and everybody else, trying to get the story. So we're back in New York. Bob's in a hotel room, and I've been calling trying to get this last interview. It happened one morning. Ratso woke Dylan up, and the singer told him to call back in an hour, and they could do the interview then. Ratso took that to mean over the phone. An hour later, with his equipment set up, he dialed the hotel and coolly requested Dylan's room. 2 rings go by. Ratso, a bleary but cheerful voice floated downtown. Yeah, how'd you know it was me? The reporter wonders. Listen, I'm talking with my beloved. Oh no, Ratso curses. You just interrupted me again, Dylan says. Every time I'm talking to her, the phone rings, it's you. Or there's a knock on the door and it's you. Every time I'm trying to talk to her and get some really serious discussion out of this, the fucking phones ring and it's you. Hey man, I haven't been sucking your soul today and I don't want to get in between you and her at all. Dylan chuckles. All right, so what do you want? What do you need right now? Well, I have a list of questions. Okay, Dylan says amiably enough. Give them to me. All right, it's the end of the tour, right? What do you mean, end of what tour? Well, what is it? A hiatus? Hiatus? You mean hyannis? Oh, you're starting to hyannis again. Yeah, 2 could play the game. Playing for the hoi polloi. What is this, a resting point? What resting point, Dylan laughs. We never rest. I know, man. Do you ever sleep? What are you doing now? What am I doing right now? No, not right now, schmuck. I mean in terms of your public persona. Public persona, huh? Dylan spits the words out warily. Look, in other words, You just completed a tour. No, we're just regrouping. Okay, a regrouping, and then what? Then we're going to hit it again. We'll be out there. But people should be looking for you? Well, look, there's no way of knowing at this point where we're going to be. There's no way of knowing nothing. I mean, we just play. We don't do the paperwork. Well, right, I agree with you. All right, talk a little bit about the spirit of this tour, because I've never seen such an amazing camaraderie, and I've been on a lot of tours. Well, that's because we're all brothers and sisters, Dylan says. Half reverently and half caustically. I've seen that closest before, but all I'm saying is that I've seen less ego clashes on this tour than any tour I've seen. All right, what's the next one? That's it? That's the answer? Yeah, then what's the next question? How do you respond to the one tack that people take to attack this tour, namely that it's the same old shit, that the original concept of playing for the people has been subverted, and now it's just crass commercialism? Is that a question, Ratso? Is this a question? Yeah. What was the original guiding philosophy behind what you were doing? Bob whispers to someone in the room for a few seconds and comes back to the phone. What's the philosophy behind anything, Ratso? When a bricklayer goes to work every morning, what's his philosophy? Well, he's probably got a pretty well-defined philosophy, even though it may not be articulated. The reporter remembers his sociology courses. All right, Dylan Niels, let me sleep on that one. All right, sleep on that one. Because what I was leading up to was, hello, you still there? Yeah, Dylan yawns. The question was that people have attacked this tour. They've attacked it? Yeah, I've read attacks on it. Who? Rolling Stone, for example, after they ripped up my article and wrote their own bureaucratic garbage. You know why they attacked the tour, Ratso? Because they hadn't seen it. They sit in their offices on their asses and could only fantasize about it. They are the establishment. Okay, so you can't be responsible for people that haven't seen the tour. That's like somebody who doesn't know you. What about that early publicity that was only going to be in small clubs? I don't know how that got started. I didn't start any of that stuff. Did you read the Paul Simon attack on you in Newsweek yet? No, read it to me. Okay. Basically it says, quote, but Simon, the cerebral and careful craftsman of some of pop's most memorable melodies, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, Mrs. Robinson, who remembers those? Bob jumps in. What meaning have those songs in anybody's life? Wait. Quote, pop music is in a terrible state right now. It stinks. This is Simon talking. Only a handful of people are doing something good. Dylan comparisons make me emotional, says Simon. There's hardly a point of comparison except we're the same age. He writes a lot of words, I write few words. In the 60s, Dylan for the first time used the folk tradition of Woody Guthrie and sang a grown-up lyric. He single-handedly took the folky emphasis on words and made it the predominant style of music in the 70s. But what he spawned is boring. Pensive and soft-voiced, Simon gazes out of his picture window overlooking New York Central Park. When I listen to Dylan, I think, oh no, not the same 3 or 4 chord melody again. Hey, look at Ratso. You could play a song with 1 chord. Ratso laughs. Simon goes on. The staple of American popular music is all 3 or 4 chord, country or folk oriented now. There's nothing that goes back to the richest, most original form of American popular music, Broadway and Tin Pan Alley, in which sophisticated lyrics are matched with sophisticated melodies. Hey, Ratso, you could play a song with 1 note. Simon says, when I started writing, I didn't think there was a space for me between Dylan and the Beatles. They had it covered. I was writing little psychological tunes based on wandering melodies. Now I'm trying to get closer to Broadway and Tin Pan Alley. Well, I hope he gets where he wants to go. But he's not the only one. There's lots of people who say that you're a great lyricist, but you just don't understand music. Oh, really, Bob? Well, I don't understand music. I understand Lightning Hopkins. I understand Leadbelly, John Lee Hooker, Woody Guthrie, Kinky Friedman. I never claimed to understand music, Ratso. If you ever heard me play guitar, you'd know that. I'm an artist. I like your guitar playing, man, Ratso steps to his defense. I love your harmonica playing, too. George Lois's secretary, Blanche, says you're the greatest harmonica player she's ever heard. Well, she's probably right, then. Maybe. I think you're a great harmonica player. And look, you've seen the show, Ratso. How many times? 30? 40? Have I ever let you down on stage? Never, man, never. Okay, so why don't you just tell him that? I will, man, I will. You saw the show. Well, it goes without saying, we'll follow anybody. What do you think of that charge, though, that Simon is making, that your music is boring? Well, maybe he's just bored, you know? I really can't tell. I don't know the man. Like you're making a new kind of music now, I think. Well, I'm always changing, always moving forward, forging new paths. I'm blazing a trail. I don't know what Paul Simon's doing. What are you listening to nowadays? What am I listening to? You know who's really good? Kalzoon. Who's that? The reporter wonders. Come on, Ratso. I'm not hip to him, man. All right, first of all, it's a girl. Who is it? Well, you asked me and I told you. Otherwise, I don't listen to nothing. I play my own music and I listen to that. I don't believe you. I like Earth Angel. I know you love No Woman, No Cry by Marley when I played it for you. You love that. You asked me for the fucking lyrics. Well, I like that the same way I like When a Man Loves a Woman. Same thing. Jerry Wexler says my music is pagan, Dylan interrupts. He didn't say that. He said it was cantatorial. Well, I don't know what that means, but you're getting it right here from the horse's mouth. Well, cantatorial means possessing the qualities of a cantor in the Jewish religion. No, cantatorial means that which has to do with food and banquet celebrations. No, that's gustatorial. Anyway, what kind of direction is your music taking? Well, you'll see. We're going to keep it a surprise, and everybody's going to be surprised because everybody thinks the music boom is all over. They don't know where it's going to come from next. That's all. They're all looking to find somebody in some little folky town that's going to bring it to them, be the new Paul Simon. They're all looking for a new Paul Simon or a new Bruce Springfield, you know. Hey, well, what do you think of Springfield, by the way? I met him and I liked him. I played Born to Run on a jukebox. He's a great singer, and he's got a great band, but I haven't heard his music so much recently. You haven't heard Born to Run? No, I've been meaning to play the whole little LP. I mean, how many hours in the day is there, Ratso? There aren't that many hours for me to just sit around listening to record albums. Well, what about when you're home? You listen then, don't you? Nah, I don't. What do you do? I'm working all the time, man, just doing what I'm doing. You've been seeing it for the past 6 weeks, you know. Oh man, I hardly see anything. I see such a small segment of your life. I see a very public segment of your life. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. That's a good song, by the way. And the first time I was on the camera was just last night. So what? So I learned a little more about you when I was on the camera. All right, keep going. What else you got? I think we're doing pretty good. It's almost wrapped up, right? Almost. I got a couple more. You're doing new songs. A lot of people in the audience are expecting the old ones. Ratso hear a muffled sound of conversation at the other end. Is this boring you, man? Hey, you never know what you expect, Ratso. Ultimately, you're let down. That's one of the first rules. The basic rules. Expectations. If you have big expectations, you're going to be let down. You can't have any expectations. You stay on the borderline, and then you move when the space unfolds. But people do have expectations. That's their problem, Ratso. That's their problem. We can't account for everybody who's walking around having expectations. I mean, who gives a shit? Were you pleased with the reception to the new songs? Seriously. Yeah. Why do you think people cheer so much at the beginning of Oh Sister? I think, Jack Levy asked me that too. What do you think? I think it's because it sounds like another song. I think they just think it's another song, right? I don't know what song they think it is, but whatever it is, it's all right. Well, a lot of your songs sound alike. Hurricane sounds like All Along the Watchtower. Yeah, well, sometimes that happens. Sometimes I influence myself. Well, I wouldn't be embarrassed in the least by that, man. I'd be proud to have written another song from one of your other songs. Well, you have, Dylan chuckles. Combat Zone, which was the song I wrote on the tour. Come on, what's it like playing in jail for you? Look, man, an audience is an audience. They played for Reuben Carter in jail. Oh, come on, that wasn't a paying audience, that was a captive audience. Well, they were a good audience. Hey, we got it wrapped up now, right? No, a couple more. I want to talk about fame now. What? Fame, F-A-M-E. I think that what's most interesting about this tour is your accessibility. You're going out again, doing the things you did when you were younger. Yeah. Was Idiot Win getting all those feelings about fame out, exercising them, and now you're able to deal with? Oh, I don't want to answer them kind of direct questions. I mean, what can I say? Give you an answer, yes or no? Well, then give me an answer what it's like coping with being a public figure. Well, a public figure could be something that walks on you. I just decided it ain't gonna walk on me. It could be the horse riding you sooner or later, but you just gotta realize you could ride it and drive it to the ground if necessary. But either you're gonna use it or it's not gonna use you, one way or the other. Well, for a while there, what was happening? You were letting it use you. Yeah, for a while there, yeah. It was quite a surprise to me when it happened. I didn't know how to deal with it. I mean, who knows how to deal with that stuff? Why'd you go out and tour with the band in '74? It seemed like the righteous thing to do. Were you happy with that tour? No, man. I wasn't happy with that like I was with this one. Oh, man, there was such a difference. You looked stilted on that tour. You didn't look comfortable. You didn't look happy. No, I wasn't comfortable and I wasn't happy. And you were singing, I wasn't comfortable and I wasn't happy, but that's got nothing to do with the tour. I don't think any of the guys were comfortable and happy. That's got nothing to do with it. Well, it does, because people relate to you, not as a friend, but as a media person. Look, they could see me in person. I'll be available. People can see me in person all over the fucking world. They could see me in person. It's just going to take some time to get around to everybody, but they can't get it all in one shot like they think they can. They can feel it firsthand, right up close, and they'll be given that opportunity. That's great. You mean the tour's going to roll all around the world? Yeah, this tour ain't going to let up. That's great. That's righteous. The thing with this last tour was that it was just a time killer. Something to do for a period of time. It was good, though. I've been on tours that were worse than that. Hey, man, Planet Waves had just come out then. Planet Waves is a great fucking LP, one of my favorites. But the album itself seems to be very ambivalent. That LP seems to spread the kind of feeling I got when I saw you on that tour, which was that you didn't seem to know if you really wanted to be there or wanted to be watching the river flow. Yeah, I kind of get held up on that tour. I wasn't in control of the situation. Nobody was in control. We would just shuffle around from airport to limo to hotel lobby to hockey rinks. I felt like Willis Reed. And in order for me to do whatever it is I do, I have to have control. I didn't have too much control on that specific tour. Look, that Bob Dylan and the Band tour was a valid tour. No question about that. Yeah, well, it was valid, but people who saw it and listened to it on the LP must have, well, you see, they had bad expectations. They shouldn't have expected anything. Wait a minute. I know a lot of people who paid a lot of money and they didn't necessarily have it. And they save up money to go to your concerts and they expect, I don't know what they expect. They expect to be turned on. Exactly. They expect to feel a vibe. But on that band tour in '74, a lot of people didn't feel that vibe. Right, well, that's all in the past. People tell me you've seen some of these recent shows that they'll remember them as the ultimate, whatever that means. Also, what excited me about this tour was that you were doing two different things. You were singing and you were doing a film. That really excited me. I've seen your movies, but I've never seen you directing a film. And that was exciting because I felt you stole the whole Pat Garrett film with that cameo role. You were like Chaplin up there on the screen. Why did you decide to direct the film? Well, after a certain period of time, somebody just had to take charge of the shooting. You'll see that when the film comes out. There's no way I could explain that. Well, when are we going to see the film? You're really low, Ratso. When are we going to see the film? When do you want to see the film? Well, I haven't even seen Eat the Fucking Document yet. Eat the Fucking Document? You know, it's called Fuck the Document now. Well, I want to see that fucking film. Arrange a screening. Look, I'll talk to you tomorrow. No, wait. 2 more questions. You have a name for the film yet? No, not yet. Okay, Hurricane was a big influence. In Prison, Frame, Losing an Eye, all that shit. Was that a big influence on you deciding to go out on tour again? Nah, it was a coincidence I met Hurricane. I wanted to go out and play again. I already made my mind up last spring. Before France or after. I was in Corsica. Well, what made you decide it? Describe the scene. What was it like when you first said, I want to do this shit again? It's in my blood. Yeah, right. I was just sitting in a field overlooking some vineyards. The sky was pink. The sun was going down. The moon was sapphire. And I recall getting a ride into town with a man with a donkey cart. And I was sitting on this donkey cart bouncing around on the road. And that's when it flashed on me that I was going to go back to America and get serious and do what it is I do. Because by that time, people didn't know what it was I did. All kinds of people. Most people don't know what I do. Only the people that see our show know what it is I do. The rest of the people just have to imagine it. Well, what's your concept of what you do? Verbally. Picture's worth 1,000 words, Ratso. What do you do? Is it like psychodrama? Well, you could say that. How would you describe it? I don't know. It's all I do. It drives me crazy to think about it. That's your job to describe it. I just do it. It's all I've ever done. I don't know anything else. Oh, come on. You know a lot, man. You know film. Howard tells me you're a natural film genius. I'm going to know film, man. We're going to make some movies that are going to blow Hollywood apart. Remember how we blew the music scene apart? When was that? Well, the 60s, remember? All the music you're listening to now is a product of that stuff that went down in the 60s. Phil Oakes, Tom Paxton, the Fugs, the Byrds, Joan Baez, Buffy. It could go on forever. I agree with you, man, Ratso smiles. There's nothing that really strikes me as being really new or really old. Although that's not to say I'm bored with it, because I'm not bored with it. Well, what's in your blood, man? Making movies, touring, making love, and making music is in my blood. Which has the priority? That's hard to tell. Sometimes I wonder about that myself. Well, most of the time, I would rather listen to your song sooner or later, one of us must know, than get a blowjob. Well, I'd rather sing it than get a blowjob. Last question. Have you been writing on this tour? I've been writing some letters, that's about it. Yeah, personal letters. Any songs? Some things on scraps of paper. Gonna put them together? I might, yeah. Anything you want? Anything I want to sing right now? No. No fragments, no exclusives? Nah, not really, Ratso. You'll get it, though. You'll get it. Ratso hangs up and starts to work on something else when the phone rings. It's Dylan. Hey, Ratso, I've been thinking. Maybe we should take out that stuff about the blowjob. Okay, man. What do you want to say? Well, what's the question again? What's in your blood? Making music or making movies? Ratso repeats. Dylan hesitates. Making music, making movies, making love. It's all in my blood. Look, I'm just outgrowing, settling my old accounts, but the restoration of honor is always in my blood.
Yeah, let's we're going to show a video.